Hello and welcome to our webinar, The Psychological Evaluation of the Intended Parents, presented by Dr. Vesna Radojevic, the Program Psychologist for Building Families. My name is Carol Weathers, and I am the founder and Program Director for Building Families. I have been involved in surrogacy arrangements for 20 years now. In that time, I have met hundreds of couples needing the assistance of surrogate mothers to have their family. I expect that by the end of this webinar, you will have a better understanding of the psychological component of a surrogacy arrangement and, in general, how important the psychologist's role is in all of our lives. Let me start with addressing some of the administrative items to help ensure this is a great experience for everyone. I want to mention that we have our IT guy here on hand should we have any difficulties with the presentation, so we don't expect to experience any major glitches. We will be muting everyone during the presentation, so only Dr. Rad's voice will be heard. As soon as you think of a question, please write it down, as we will have a question and answer series at the end of the presentation. If for some reason our webinar internet connection is interrupted, we will attempt to reconnect for 15 minutes. If after 15 minutes we are unsuccessful, we will email you with the rescheduled date and time. And lastly, please understand that our roles here today are to promote health and well-being for the couples considering surrogacy as the alternative to building their family when all other medical efforts have been exhausted. Thank you again for your interest in our webinars. Here is Dr. Vesna Radojevic.
Hello, I am Dr. Vesna Radojevic, also known as Dr. Rad. I have a PhD in clinical psychology and I am a licensed psychologist. I have been working with building families exclusively for the past 15 years and have developed an expertise in reproductive medicine. Specifically, I have developed a state-of-the-art psychological program which evaluates and treats surrogates and intended parents. Today I will focus on the latter. I'd like to talk about what we're going to cover today with respect to, it's not moving, click, okay, with respect to evaluations, psychological evaluations of intended parents. And the overview for our introduction is, first I want to give you a rationale or reason to perform a psychological evaluation with every couple prior to them beginning the journey of having a surrogate child. Secondly, I will go in some detail to give you an overview of what does the psychological evaluation actually entail. It is a two-part component. Finally, I want to talk about the right model that I think is really important with respect to working as a multidisciplinary team in reproductive medicine. So the first rationale, obviously, is, are they truly ready to begin the surrogate program? You know, people come to us, to our offices, because they sometimes feel helpless, desperate, depressed. They may have marital conflict, as well as they may be anxious about having a child. It is up to us to really see whether it's the right thing to do, when to do it as well. Oftentimes, if we don't do it when they're ready, we get on an unpredictable roller coaster ride with our couples that affects the entire process. So we really want to make sure that they are truly ready now, as opposed to 3 months from now or 6 months from now. We want to assess their relationship. Each couple has a unique experience of their history and coping with infertility. I want to be sure to assess their relationship and how stable is it. Have they made this decision as a partnership, or is the woman, in most cases, driving this decision because of her need to have a child? We want to make sure that he's not just going along for the ride. Hence, we avoid doing any harm to their relationship during this process. If we don't do this, it really bogs down the entire process once again for our surrogate, the agency, as well as reproductive medicine specialists, physicians, and their staff. I recognize and acknowledge that most couples have had some disappointments along the way. I want to understand and be prepared to help them if needed. In addition, the psychological evaluation explores whether they have successfully dealt with this process of grief and loss in order to go forward with a surrogate arrangement. Many couples have been struggling with this for years, sometimes a few years, and sometimes as much as 10 years of their infertility. Sometimes the woman even knows that by the time she's a teenager that she was born with the syndrome and cannot bear her own child. And she may have dealt with it over time, but then she meets that special person that she loves and wants to have a baby with, and that loss and grief process may be initiated again. If we don't make sure that this has been dealt with, we may exacerbate old wounds and make things much worse for a couple. The final reason is that by evaluating the couples up front before they start the process, we are promoting our understanding of how they cope and how to best match them with which surrogate. How can we work with them and navigate and define their needs before, during, and after they have their surrogate baby. This evaluation helps us have a deeper knowledge of who they are psychosocially and interpersonally, as well as how they work as a dyad, that we may help them in a more conducive fashion. Let's discuss the evaluation itself. It's two-part, the clinical component and the psychological testing component. The clinical evaluation is a face-to-face meeting with me and the couple that explores their relationship, infertility history, reasons for surrogacy and why they've chosen it, and other aspects such as their decision-making process for surrogacy versus perhaps adoption. I always look at who knows about this, who have they consulted, what is their actual support system? Do their parents know, family, friends, or have they done this all on their own? It is critical to the success of the program. Also, I'm evaluating their mental status. Are they oriented to reality? Are there any emotional or mental issues for them or their family of origin? We want to be prepared to handle that. I take a full history of their early childhood to make sure that there are no traumas that we may make worse during the process. As you can see from the pictures on your screen, to your left is a reality show, John and Kate +8. They have, I think, 6 IVF children, and you can see from their body language that they actually are not really fit to go through assisted reproductive procedures. They probably would have not been cleared for the psychological eval to go forward. In contrast, that's an extreme case, of course. In contrast, you see the couple on the right, and they appear to have dealt with their issues and are ready for assisted reproductive procedures and eager to start. Within the clinical office, in my office, it's a safe environment. I want to make sure that I understand what their expectations are as well from the surrogate, from the program, and I want to make sure that I can also cover with them what the expectations are from the program and what they may sort of look forward to and have a place that they can actually talk about it and answer questions. The second component of the psychological evaluation is the psychological test, which is the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory number 2. And this is a psychological test which is an objective measure of personality that is reliable and valid, which is widely used across numerous cultures and translated into over 100 languages. It was actually developed during the 1940s to use with returning soldiers from World War II because we saw so many psychological symptoms that they were experiencing. It wasn't until later, after Vietnam, that we found out that soldiers after the war zone actually suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. However, this test is widely researched through thousands of doctoral dissertations and other funded grants such as NIH and NIMH. So it's constantly being revised, and the scales are always telling us more and more information that we need to know. It provides us with 10 clinical scales. If you look at the bottom of this chart on your screen, we have from left to right, we have L, F, and K, which are the defensiveness scales, and we measure actually how defensive is this individual. And defenses are necessary. They're kind of like the skin on our body. They protect us from bleeding out, but to an extent again. What you'll notice next to them, if you keep going, is 1 through 0, and then there's letters underneath. Those are the 10 clinical scales. This actually depicts the MMPI before it was revised, the number 2, because in the number 2 we have many more defensive scales that we look at. Actually, the LI scale there, L scale, is a scale that measures social desirability. Most of us adhere to society, and we want to know how many lies they are, do they actually adapt to social desirability, if you would. And most of us would have 2 or 3 lies right there. However, when we get into 6, 7, and 8, and 9, we're really looking at someone who's in trouble with the law or in prison. Most of our couples actually elevate those scales because they're trying to put their best foot forward. There's a lot at stake, so they want to look good. Anyway, as you notice here, we have T-scales as opposed to raw scales. Those numbers underneath are standard scores so that we can actually compare apples to apples, if you would. The test has 567 true-false questions. On average, it takes 90 minutes. Some of our couples, however, do take a lot longer, particularly our international couples. I think they're trying to really do well and kind of give us the right answer. And there's really no right answer. It's either true or false. Do you hear voices? Yes or no? Okay. For example, I take a very close and comprehensive look at the clinical scales. And what I look at, for example, is subscales. Like if you look at number 2 at the bottom, and under 2 is D, that stands for depression. There's actually subscales that I actually evaluate. Things like subscale for suicidal ideation, dysphoric mood, psychomotor retardation, even vegetative signs, we have a subscale to look at. It must be given in a standard way. You can't be on the phone. You have to do it all at once. We check on the person and see that they're doing it quietly and completely alone. The evaluation is really designed to rule out any potential emotional or psychological issues in each individual as well as in the couple and their relationship that may hinder them, our surrogate, the healthcare team, or the program on the whole. It truly protects everybody. It's a win-win-win. This test, I always say, it is only as good as the person who is knowledgeable to interpret it. The right model. As you can see from the picture on your screen, this is a very sort of complex, intricate, and a balanced and sturdy structure. And that's what we need to do in terms of interfacing as a multidisciplinary team in reproductive medicine. The first and foremost important thing is that all professionals should be doing their due diligence when caring for the patient. In this case, the intended parents. For the past 15 years that I have been with Building Families, over 12 of these I have spent developing the state-of-the-art evaluation that really promotes excellent care for all concerned. We were the first surrogate program that required that every couple be psychologically evaluated. Of course, we have always performed an evaluation on every surrogate mother, but we believe that a standard should also be set for the couple contemplating entering the arena of surrogacy. Their role is as critical, if not more so, than the surrogate mother. Psychological evaluation, in my opinion, should be utilized prior to all assisted reproductive procedures. And I think it's really important because who comes to your door and mine are people who feel helpless, who are desperate, and vulnerable. It isn't always the best thing for them, so we have to decide as professionals what's in their best interest. Because of the psychological evaluation that we do in the program, our team of physicians, attorney, and Building Family staff can focus on their portion of the work with the surrogates and intended parents without being distracted that some emotionally charged issues may interfere and prevent them from having a great experience from the beginning to the goal of having a surrogate child for the couple. I think our couples feel a sense of security. They trust us ultimately that we are doing our due diligence. They feel secure that we will do that not just with them, but our surrogates, that we're doing a thorough job and we have integrity. It's always amazing to me that we have couples from another continent that trust us to take care of their surrogate and the most precious thing that they're looking forward to in their life, their unborn child. I think that speaks volumes about the work we do up front before we start the program. A complete understanding of the intended parents must be achieved. We must fully understand our couples before engaging them in a surrogate arrangement. I think it is our responsibility and obligation in order to have an effective and positive outcome. I hope that I have given you a better perspective to understand how the psychological evaluation of intended parents works, what it takes, what's involved, why we do it, and how critical it is in determining how well a couple will manage and navigate through their medical treatment and their surrogacy arrangement. This evaluation is truly cutting edge, state-of-the-art. It is not always fully understood. I think there's still a debate in the field about it. I think there should be no debate. Only a licensed psychologist trained in psychodiagnostic evaluations should be performing this type of evaluation because of all the training, both academically and clinically. This concludes the webinar. Let's now move on to questions and answer stage. I have received I think we're going to unmute everybody and what I'd like to do is have you take turns. I'd like everybody to hear your question, of course, so that we can so that I can address it fully and that everybody knows what you're asking, because I think that's important. Okay. Are we ready?
Dr. Rad, are you there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. My question is, should this type of evaluation be an industry requirement? And if you believe so, why?
Absolutely. I think throughout my presentation today, I've spoken at least with the right model that a multidisciplinary team should interact together in a seamless fashion. I think there's a lot at stake here, and I think we have to do our due diligence. And I think doing a psychological evaluation prior to engaging a couple in assisted reproductive procedures is the right thing to do, because, you know, people are very complex and people come to us with histories that we don't understand. And we want to make sure that we're actually doing the right thing. I think everybody should do it. I think we're the first program in surrogacy to do it, and I think it's definitely needed in surrogacy because it is so intricate, the whole process, and there's so many players involved. The surrogate themselves, the couple, the reproductive medicine staff, the agency. I think it really does protect everybody across the board, and I think it makes the process just so much better. I communicate with the program right after I see the couple and give them sort of a snapshot of who I think they are psychologically and how to deal with them. But I think, you know, also throughout the program, the psychologist helps in terms of communicating with everybody along those lines so that it reduces the stress level for everybody and makes this process more efficient and effective. So the answer is yes. That was a long yes. Do you have another question?
I do. I have one other one. You talk about providing feedback to the agency and to the doctors. Can you give us kind of some examples of that or how that feedback would be helpful?
Sure. Let me give you some feedback. Let me give you an example. Always after I evaluate the couple and I've gone through interpreting the MMPI-2, I call Carol Weathers and I talk to her directly about sort of my impression of them, what the psychological evaluation has given us in terms of data. I talk about that they may actually have issues with being in control. Most of our couples do, but some more so. And that they may be the ones who want to kind of dictate what they want in the program to the extent that it may actually hinder the progress of the program and the surrogate herself. So I give her feedback on that. I give her feedback if they are too demanding. I give her feedback if they haven't dealt with issues, what we can anticipate down the road, and how to actually manage and cope with that. So that's an example of what I would do. I think it prepares, I think, building families and the staff working with this couple in a way that they can look for these things, kind of keep their ear to the ground, if you would, to make sure that we can deal with it easily enough to help them with having a surrogate baby.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have a question? Okay.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. Does the evaluation have to take place in physical form, or how you say it? Do we have to be there?
Yeah, do you have to be actually in my office to do it? That's actually preferable. And obviously, forever we've done it in my office, because I have to see you face-to-face and I have to monitor the MMPI. Recently, in the past couple years, we've actually gone to Skype only for international couples. And actually, it's working pretty good. I wouldn't say it's 100%, but it's very close. And I think on Skype, I can see them taking the test as well, so we make sure the camera is there. I give them the instructions, etc. And I think I get a pretty good evaluation clinically in that I spend time with them face-to-face interacting on Skype. But I think typically it should be done in the office setting, as long as it's giving in a standardized procedures, if you would, that I'm available if there's any questions, that I'm looking at them and checking them out while they're taking the test as well. I think those are important things to consider.
Okay, thanks.
So we have shifted, we have shifted to the new age, if you would, in computer technology sort of to do some of this psychological evals for our couples, not for the surrogates. The surrogates are local, so they all have to come into the office, of course.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good idea when we're so far apart.
Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to make it a little bit easier and still keep the integrity of both the program and the psychological eval intact.
Okay. Does the evaluation have impact on who you choose as a surrogate woman?
Yeah, actually, I think I alluded to that briefly in my presentation. Absolutely. The psychological evaluation of the couple gives us a snapshot of their personality and how they function and who they are. And we then sort of talk about, Carol Weathers and I talk about who might be a good match for them. And so it does affect that to some extent. But we've had, like, in building families, and I always say Carol Weathers is the expert in matching because she's been doing it so long and for so many couples that I think we have like 99.9% success rate at matching the first time and matching well, that everybody's happy.
Okay.
Any more questions? Those were very good questions. Okay. So nobody else has any questions. I guess I've addressed all the questions in the presentation. I'm kidding you. Anyway, it was a pleasure to have you today, and I hope that it was important and valuable for your information and working with intended parents. And this concludes our webinar, but also, if you do have any questions,
Okay.
I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So nobody else has any questions? I guess I've addressed all the questions in the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm running through this, I apologize. Please do not hesitate to contact Building Families, Carol Weathers, directly at her website, as well as to check out our website and to see the latest and the greatest news that we have. Thank you for your attention today, and I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye now.